Go. Good morning. Welcome to WJZZ Cool TV. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Feel free to follow us, share us, comment on us, and subscribe to us. It's not working.
Play the music.
I'm trying. There we go. Here we go.
Here's the reading. Here's the reading.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Sananda Corrado, co-hosting the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford, coming to you live at 10 o'clock every Thursday morning on WJZZ Cool TV, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public School superintendent, a former world-class athlete, and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books: The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The William Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, and its explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, and another forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Balls, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. Saturday mornings, 9:30, and Monday evenings, 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just by calling him at 313-460-8272. That's right, 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and also a right lightning rod for controversy. He's received the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award, the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, dang, and a Detroit track was named for him. His website is www.alifeontherun.com, and his email address is drjohntelford@aol.com. That's Dr. DrJohnTelford@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present you that crusading old native from Detroit, the original Detroiter, Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, who is an anthropologist by training.
That's right.
Dr. Corrado has been teaching at Wayne County Community College for over 10 years.
10 years.
She is a researcher with the Detroit Equity Action Lab, housed in the Wayne State University Law School, and she is the founder and CEO of Education by Design. So I am very much honored to have this beautiful young woman co-hosting for me on this show, which is brand new. You know, I'm on WCHB AM 1340 every Saturday morning at 9:30 and every Monday evening at 6:30 on WCHB, Detroit's gospel station. Also streaming on 67, I think it's 96.7, I think it was 67, 96.7 FM too. But I wanted, before I start the show today, and you can probably tell I'm nervous as a cat because this is the first show. Actually, I'm more nervous than a racehorse. And I was a racehorse. So that makes me even more nervous because I was a racehorse.
Which is funny because you never stopped having an audience. You're currently the poet residence for the Detroit Public Schools. So even after you retired from superintendent, you're still teaching, and you joined our union again, our DFT. We're so glad to have you.
Yeah, this is true. I'm a dues-paying member of the Detroit Federation of Teachers for the first time in 60 years. You know, I'm 85 years old.
I think we're the only two DFT members who were out at the McDonald's strike that you supported.
Oh yeah, we went over and stood on a picket line, and I was over there waving my cane, in that picket line. But before I start doing some of the other things I would like to do in this hour show today, and I know we also have to do commercials, or we have to listen to Roger Penzabene. He's going to do have the commercials on.
God bless Mr. Penzabene.
Every 15 minutes, he's our fellow Highland Park Chamber of Commerce guru.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to plug the Dexter Elmhurst Center before I forget.
That's right.
Helen Moore, the great Helen Moore, my friend Helen Moore, my fellow member of the National Action Network, Helen Moore, is trying to keep the Dexter Elmhurst Center open during the tail end of this pandemic, and she needs donations. The Dexter Elmhurst Center is 11825 Dexter Avenue in Detroit, 11825 Dexter Avenue, Detroit, Michigan 48206. And when you do make a donation, please make a donation in memory of my wife, my late wife, Adrian. Adrian Telford died on the 7th of January. She's been gone for 5 months now. I am still mourning her big time. It's left a big hole in my heart.
She was an amazing educator, former principal, an activist.
She was an activist, a Detroit principal. She was with me everywhere we went,
right.
For the past 10 years, and I miss her big time. But
Yeah,
hopefully you will donate in her name. I would appreciate it if you would do that. Again, to the Dexter Elmhurst Center at 11825 Dexter Avenue, Detroit, Michigan.
And we cannot express how integral the Dexter Elmhurst Center has been to the youth in the surrounding communities. It was also the tipping point where Freedom School started again, right? When the high school students decided to strike against the unequitable conditions in their school.
That's right.
So Dexter Elmhurst holds a lot of heart for the community, and we hope to get some support right back through this station.
That is absolutely true, Shananda. We're hoping against hope that we can do that. And I also wanted to I wanted to mention. I don't want to forget this either. This book that I'm holding up right now is my book that I wrote in I believe it was the year 2011. It was published. It's called What Old Men Know, a definitive dictionary, an almanac of advice. And I believe I was entitled to write this book, even though it was 10 years ago that I wrote it, because I was 75 years old then, so I was an old man then too. And it contains a lot of pithy sayings and advice. Matter of fact, my protege, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he was my co-coach. I made him my assistant coach at Pershing many years ago. I coached him at Denby when he was a high jumper. Dr. Wayne Dyer, you remember the late Dr. Wayne Dyer. What he wrote about this book. He was a world-renowned self-help author and lecturer, if you don't remember Wayne, but he wrote about this book, Pervasive Wisdom, a must-read. That's what Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote about this book. And at the beginning of the book, if I can read, the print is very small, but at the very beginning of the book, I have this quote. It's from the book of Job. Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Where is the way to the dwelling of light? And where is the place of darkness? In 1887, aged sage T.H. Huxley observed that the known is finite, the unknown infinite. Quote, intellectually, Huxley wrote, we stand on an islet in the midst of an inimitable ocean of inexplicability. Our business in every generation is to reclaim a little more land. Now, there are two men that I have known during my life. Both of them have passed now. two men during my long life who have done just that. They have reclaimed just a little bit of land. One of the men who did this was a man named Will Robinson. And I wrote a book about Will Robinson, too. Here it is. I'm holding it up. The book is called Will the First, The Saga of Sports Civil Rights Pioneer, Will Robinson, William Joseph Robinson.
That's one of your most popular books as well.
Yeah, this is a big seller. Next to my autobiography, it's probably the bestseller. My autobiography is A Life on the Run, seeking and safeguarding social justice. And it's really not about my running, even though I ran all over the world. I was an undefeated sprinter in Europe, but that's not what my autobiography is about. But this book is about Will Robinson, and it's his life story. And Charlie Primus was one of his great athletes that he coached at Old Miller High School. And Charlie Primus said about Will, Coach Will Robinson was the greatest man I ever met. Plain and simple, that's what he said. And Charlie Kingsnake Primus is passed now too. Was a Harlem Globetrotter, and he was a Miller High School and Wayne State University All-American forward in basketball. The great Charlie Primus. And another man that Will Robinson coached, a young man then, was a man named Walter Jenkins. Walt Jenkins,
Wow.
The great Dr. Walter Jenkins. And Walt Jenkins died this week. His wife, Mattie Jenkins, contacted me from San Jose, California, and told me that her husband, the great Dr. Walter Jenkins, had died in his sleep. And I'm one of the things that I want to do on this initial show, what is this? The John Telford Detroit show, co-hosted with me by Dr. Sunanda Corrado of Columbia University.
Good morning.
Dr. Walter Jenkins was what I call in my book, What Old Men Know, an aged sage. He was an aged sage. He lived to be, I think he was 88 years old. I believe that's how long Walt Jenkins lived. And, some great men aren't celebrated.
A lot.
And some celebrated men aren't great.
That's the truth.
Walt Jenkins was both celebrated and great. Dr. Walt Jenkins and I initially met. He was an All-American. No, he wasn't. He was a big star, though. He was a big football star and track man at the Old Miller High School under Coach Will Robinson. And then he was a big star in track and football at Wayne University. It was then called Wayne University. It didn't become Wayne State University until 1955. In fact, we didn't get our uniforms that said Wayne State University. I was a sprinter for them until 1956.
When you joined them, you were a world-class sprinter.
No, I wasn't a world-class sprinter when I joined them. I was undefeated at 100 yards when I was, and we've got to be careful. I think we have a commercial coming up.
We'll let it go off when the commercial comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I want to continue talking about Walt Jenkins until commercial time because I want to honor that man.
That's right.
He totally deserves being honored. There, the light just went on.
Good morning. You're listening to WJZZ Cool TV, your home for real live information. We're streaming to you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Please like us, follow us, share us, give us your comments, and please subscribe. If you'd like to sponsor this show or to have an advertisement on this show, please email us at wjzzcooltvofficial@gmail.com. And don't forget, we've got a community going on here at WJZZ. So please come on down Sundays to our backyard boogie. It's Sunday from 3 to 9 p.m. at 19730 Ralston. It's around the corner from Woodward and 7 Mile. It's a free party. It's a free concert. It's awesome, awesome free food. Bring your own booze, but don't bring the kids. And bring a chair. You're going to want to sit for a minute and meet your fellow citizens. So please come on down.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, for that commercial. And again, I am honoring Dr. Walter Jenkins today, my friend of half a century, who just passed this recent week. We've lost Dr. Walter Jenkins. You know, he and I coached against each other. He was coaching at Kettering High School when I was coaching at Pershing High School. And one day, you know, I had a great relay team. The half-mile relay was undefeated. The mile relay was a state champion, a record-setting mile relay that was undefeated. And when the half-mile relay was running, my half-mile relay, actually on the anchor leg, was about 10 yards ahead of his Kettering half-mile relay. But what happened was he complained that my team had fouled his team on the turn. And when I responded to him, how could my team have fouled your team on the turn? My team was 10 yards ahead of your team on the turn. So they could not have fouled you on the turn because they were 10 yards ahead of you on the turn. And he said, oh no, this is what they did. And, you know, I was only 170 pounds. I was only about five pounds over my best running weight then. I was, 28, 29 years old. And he was 230 pounds. You know, he had been a linebacker for the Detroit Lions, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And he threw a body block on me that almost knocked me off my feet. So at that point, that angered me. So what I did, which was not wise, but what I did
True story.
was, yes, true story. I hit Walt Jenkins right on the point of the chin as hard as I could. And that was my Sunday punch, you know, because I had been Golden Gloves welterweight champion and middleweight contender a few years earlier. And when I hit somebody as hard as I could right on the point of the chin, they fell down and went to sleep. But Walt didn't. What Walt did was shake his head and then roared and rushed me. And thankfully for me, our fellow coaches separated us just in time to keep me from going to the hospital. But of course we shook hands and made up and laughed. In fact, we laughed about it for years afterward, you know, that I had almost gone to the hospital because I had hit Walt Jenkins on the point, right on the point of the chin. I mean, it was one of the most perfect punches I ever threw. You know,
Men bond in strange ways.
And you know, I had 20 fights in the ring. You know, 17 of them were amateur, and in 7 of those fights, if I got injured or if I was kind of afraid of the guy I was fighting, I wouldn't waste any time putting him out for good. You know, I did that 7 times out of 20 fights because I didn't really like to hit people or hurt people real hard unless they hurt and hit me. But another fighter that I hit with my Sunday punch, or at least I thought I got him, was a fighter named Henry Hank. But unfortunately, he did not go down, and he hit me with his Sunday punch. And I wrote a poem about that, you know, years later because I am a poet. I've always been a poet. I've been a poet ever since I was 12 years old. And I am the poet in residence of the Detroit Public Schools. And I am also, I was a prize poet of the Sharon Creative Arts Foundation in Connecticut. But I'm trying to remember this poem that I wrote about Henry Hank, because they called him Hammer and Henry. How'd the poem go? Henry Hank's hard hammer hook lent my nose its lopsided look. Yeah, I mean, he broke my nose, you know, and if you look at me in this direction, you can see that it's still a little crooked. But Walt Jenkins, I'm talking about Walt, the great Dr. Walter Jenkins, whom the great Will Robinson, the great William Joseph Robinson, who was born in 1911 and it was 21 years older than I am. The great Will Robinson coached Walt Jenkins at the old Miller High School, which had so many great athletes. Walt was one of them. Probably the best football player ever came out of there. Either he or maybe Gene Big Daddy Lipscomb. They both were coached by Will Robinson, and Big Daddy Lipscomb played for the Baltimore Colts. And Walt Jenkins played for the Detroit Lions, and as I said, he played for the Hamilton, Ontario Tiger Cats, who won the Grey Cup, which was the Canadian Professional Football Championship. But before he did that, Walt Jenkins became a physical education teacher in the Detroit Public Schools. And as I said, he was a coach at Kettering, and then he became the assistant principal at Kettering, and then he became the principal of Cooley High School.
Oh.
And after that, he became the principal of Detroit Northern High School.
Northern.
And after that, many years after that, he came out of administrative retirement to become an executive director along with me. We both came out of administrative retirement to become executive directors under CEO Kenneth Burnley.
The first takeover.
Yeah, in the Detroit Public Schools.
1990?
Well, 1999 was the takeover, and it was the year 2000 or 2001 that Dr. Walter Jenkins and I, and also Pete Petros, the great Pete Petros, another Wayne State star, ran with me and Jim Bibbs from Michigan Normal College, the old Michigan Normal, and Bullet Billy Smith from Wayne State. I ran with those three guys, Petros, Bibbs, and Bullet Billy Smith on the fastest relay team in the world. People don't know that. I mean, the Detroit Track Club had the fastest half-mile relay team in the world back in 1958, believe it or not. That was a year after I had graduated from Wayne State that we had the fastest half-mile relay team in the world.
I didn't realize our athletes gave so much back to our kids till this day. I didn't realize that.
Oh, all those guys coached and taught in Detroit, every one of them. Petros was principal of Mumford. Walt Jenkins was principal of Cooley and Northern. And Walt and Petros and I were executive directors under Burnley. And Burnley himself, Petros and I had both had a hand in coaching him. And Ken Burnley was set a record for the 220 yards.
The EFM.
What?
The immersion. You coach Burnley as well?
Oh yeah. I
funny.
I wasn't his official coach, but I gave him a lot of
Kenneth
pointers
Burnley.
and tips. Yeah, Ken Burnley. And Ken Burnley ended up at the University of Michigan on a full ride, tuition, books, room, and board on a track scholarship, which I didn't, by the way. Michigan never offered me a scholarship until I was a junior at Wayne. They tried to steal me. And at that point, of course, I wasn't leaving my teammates or my coach. So I just took exceptional pleasure, which I had done for the past 2 years, beating sprinters from the University of Michigan every chance I got them on the track. But anyway, Walt Jenkins, as I have said, some great men aren't celebrated, and some celebrated men aren't great. But Dr. Walter Jenkins was both great and celebrated. So rest in peace, Dr. Walter Jenkins.
I'm sorry for your loss, John.
Well, it's I've lost a lot of people lately. I lost my wife 5 months ago. This hadn't been a good year. 5 of my friends too have died of the corona, including my old teammate Rayford Johnson, who was with me in Europe, ran a relay team with me. And that's another guy I could talk about. Rayford Johnson, the greatest athlete who ever lived, in my view. No question. I mean, if he had turned pro boxer, he probably would have won the heavyweight title. He's the greatest athlete who ever lived, Rayford Johnson. He was world ranked at high hurdles, world ranked in a long jump, and was right on the edge of being world ranked in the quarter mile. When he ran in a 4x4 relay with me, and he was the only non-specialist in the quarter mile who ran on that relay team. It was in Milan, Italy, 1957, and the other three on that team were all quarter mile specialists. And Rayford had the second fastest time on the split on that team. I had the first fastest. That was the day I had a I think it was 45-2, but it was with a running start, so you really can't count it. But let's see, what do I want to say? Do I have anything else I want to say about Walt Jenkins before our next commercial? I guess not. Okay, let me do this. I want to share with you a newspaper column that's in the May edition of the Detroit Native Sun. That's been in the stands now for 2 or 3 weeks.
Please pick up and support the Detroit Native Sun. It's an old grassroots newspaper. It keeps voices alive, and it keeps real controversies on the surface in terms of what's going on in the city. So when you're going into your restaurants, please pick up a Native Sun. They're free, I believe. And Dr. Telford has a column in it every issue.
Yeah, I have a column and usually an article in it every issue. This particular one is the column, Telford Telescope, Addressing Global Challenges is the headline of the column. And here's how the column goes. In this perilous era of another very real threat of Armageddon, we must endeavor to build toward a more equitable, regenerative, gotta keep checking the time, equitable, regenerative, and community-centered society worldwide. We live in a time in which we face many global challenges, including climate change, dwindling biodiversity due to international industrial practices,
fisheries,
right, polluted oceans, nuclear weaponry proliferation, and a worldwide pandemic. Realistic solutions to these threats that all living beings on our planet face will require international cooperation from totalitarian as well as democratic governments. This cooperation will also require adoption of viable alternatives to the predominant systems of competition, conflict, and war, which have been in place throughout human history. Think about that for a minute. Throughout human history, there has always been war. Peace systems. Go ahead.
No, I like how you reflected on the many systems of conflict, because oftentimes we are in American institutions that are in conflict with each other. I like what you're saying. Thank you.
Well, peace systems, for example, the one historically adopted by the Aboriginal people of Australia are possible. They are possible. And a better known and more modern example of a peace system, of course, is the European Union, the EU, which would have been regarded as impossible, even ridiculous, just a few years ago, just decades before it was formulated. But anyway, let me get back to the column itself. Do we have time?
Well,
let's. Light's going to go on.
Right now.
Okay, the light's on. Commercial.
So, good morning. Welcome back home to WJZZ Cool TV, black-owned internet TV platform, coming right at you from Detroit, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Please like us, follow us, share us, give us your comments, and subscribe to programming like this at this station. To sponsor or to advertise for the John Telford Detroit Show, please email the WJZZ Cool TV official at gmail.com. And don't forget our Backyard Boogie. Come out and meet us. We like to see who our listeners are, and we like to bring you into the family. Backyard Boogie this Sunday from 3 to 9 p.m., corner 7 Mile and Woodward, more specifically 19730 Ralston. Bring the kid in your heart, but don't bring your babies. Bring your own booze and bring your own chairs. You're going to have hours of entertainment, amazing people. It'll be a nice way to spend your Sunday evening with us.
Sunday evening. I'm going to try to make that too. Can I go with you?
I'm bringing
Sunanda?
you.
Oh, you
I'm
are?
bringing
Okay.
you. You will see John. You'll see Dr. Telford this Sunday if you come out.
What
I
time's
promise
it?
I'm bringing him.
What times do things start?
It starts at 3, but kids in pool, I'll probably pick you up around 4:30.
Sounds good. By George.
Amazing artist. Amazing artist.
Okay, I'm going to be there. But anyway, you know, here are some factors that. Remember, I was talking about peace systems like the European Union, and they demonstrate an ability for peace to eclipse systems of war. That's what I'm talking about in this Detroit Native Son column in May, and so I'm reading again now. Here are some factors that can contribute to intergroup peace and cooperation. And one of them is an overarching common identity. We have to establish that because we're all human beings. Number 2 is positive social interconnectedness. And number 3 is interdependence, because we are all interdependent now on this planet more than we've ever been, particularly economic and environmental and ecological interdependence. And number 4 is the maintenance of non-warring values and norms. We have to maintain norms that are non-warring, values that are non-warring, W-A-R-R-I-N-G, non-warring, with the emphasis on the non. And 5, no, that was 5. 6 is a peace leadership manifested by governments and relevantly focused organizations. Relevantly focused organizations, and this is where an organization that I belong to comes in. Relevantly focused organizations, and as potentially manifested in our Detroit-based incipient Humans, and that's an acronym. Humans United Movement. What is it? What is our acronym, Sunanda? Humans United Movement, Advancing Nations and Society. Humans United Movement, Advancing Nations and Society. It's an incipient movement. It's just starting to get going right now.
Humans has been founded by Dr. John Telford.
I'm going to talk about that.
And Doc Holbrook. Yeah.
A peace leadership manifested by governments and relevantly focused organizations, and is potentially manifested in our Detroit-based incipient humans. And its title, as I said, is an acronym. And humans is going to be directed by as Sunanda said, Michael Doc Holbrook. Michael Doc Holbrook. He's the impending chair, and I'm the impending vice chair.
And he's worked a lot with Grace Boggs in the Boggs Center. So all these ideas of empathy and interdependence, you and he've been working on for a very, very long time.
Well, I've known Grace Boggs, since the
woman.
1960s. I've known her forever, actually, probably since.
This is part of our inheritance from her as well.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm the impending vice chair and corresponding secretary, and Sunanda, Dr. Sunanda Corrado is the education director. Corey Wilcox is the archivist. Dr. Biba Sheik, whom you just heard on the previous program, is the advisory board chair. And Joe Corrado, Sunanda's husband.
Lucky guy.
he's the interim treasurer. And Virginia Starkey is the interim associate treasurer. Now, Joe Corrado, Sunanda's husband, is also a prominent builder. And he's going to be having some building instruction in a program that we'll be talking about also on this show at a later time. But I adapted this poem that I'm going to share with you because I am the poet in residence in the Detroit Public Schools Community District. I write poetry all the time. I adapted this poem of mine. Originally, it was titled "America, My Love." That was the original title of this poem. But I've adapted it to become the poetic anthem of humans. Humans United Movement, Advancing Nations and Society. And here is the poem. We've laughed and loved and lived in turn with Arab, Wasp, and Jew. Wasp, that's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, We've we've laughed and loved and lived in turn with Arab, Wasp, and Jew. We've played with, grown with, taught, and learned from Black, Malay, and Sioux. That's Sioux, Sioux, the Indian tribe, the Native American tribe, not Indian, Native American.
I'm Indian, damn it.
Yeah, she's Indian. Yeah. She's an East Indian.
Made in Detroit.
Made in Detroit.
Parts from India.
Parts from India. We've reached in love to touch the face of someone short and tall. To run and win the human race, we need to love us all. Man, I wish everyone would practice that. If only they would, right?
And you know that this initiative, as much as it sounds straightforward, I mean, we're inheriting this imperial culture of governing. It was Winston Churchill who said that peace is war by other means, right? So we really got to change the face of government on that level. And so when you're talking about bringing this idea of empathy and interdependence and these non-warring values, it seems obvious, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Well, that's what humans is all about. And God willing, we're going to try to make it happen, because all of the ills that are suffered by humanity right now seem to be converging. We've got the COVID-19.
Yeah.
We've got global warming.
Yeah.
We've got some countries other than the United States and the United States itself flexing their military muscle at a point when they should be flexing their civilian muscle, their human muscle.
That's right.
They're trying to help and save themselves, ourselves, and the planet. Now, one of the reasons that you see me reading, watchers and listeners, to the John Telford Detroit show, co-hosted by Dr. Sunanda Corrado with Dr. John Telford.
An honor.
It's an honor for me to have her. Is that I don't see too well anymore. These 85-year-old eyes have become increasingly nearsighted, and I never really was a very good seer. Seer, maybe, but seer, no. So that's why I'm holding this stuff close to my nose and trying to look in the camera every now and then at the same time. But I want to talk a little bit about, I'm the corresponding secretary of the Detroit-based UCAC. The Detroit-based UCAC. Oh, we got a little time yet. Detroit-based UCAC. United Communities Action Coalition is the acronym. United Communities Action Coalition. And it's a progressive police monitorship advisory group that has evolved from Detroit's old 7th Precinct Community Advisory Coalition. That was chaired by Michael Doc Holbrook, that same Michael Doc Holbrook. That is the head of the Humans organization.
And Dr. Dolores Brown.
And Dr. Dolores Brown, who is a big supporter of Governor Whitmer. Like Humans, UCAC crosses city borders. And I expect that UCAC is going to become a real force for good in the very near future. It's going to become increasingly influential in the city and state. There was an important UCAC meeting on Friday, this past Friday, May the 28th, at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Friendship Meadows Community Center at 3930 Rivard. And under recent mayors, I've got to tell you this, the Detroit Police Department rank and file officers and the overwhelming majority of higher-ranking police personnel, many whom I know personally, by the way, and have known for a long time, are good cops, or have been good cops, those who've passed on. And we must ensure that the Detroit Police Department and other police departments throughout Michigan continue to protect and serve the public rather than protecting and serving corporate interests and exclusively the ultra wealthy, because this is what too many of them, particularly in Warren and Livonia, maybe I shouldn't name some of the towns where there have been some real problems, but and also throughout the whole country. I mean, think of what's happened to George Floyd. We've got to and that's why we're doing this. My ex-wife Gina Telford and Sunanda here, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, and her husband Joe, a prominent Grosse Pointe builder, are UCAC members. They're members already. And Dr. Dolores Harrison Brown is the UCAC treasurer, and she's also,
I can't express what a tour de force this first meeting was, because it was COVID, right? And now a lot of organizations are coming back. Helen Moore is putting the call out for all activists to come back out. We can't forget where our work was. But I couldn't believe the people who came out to show their support for your meeting.
I'm gonna name them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I got them.
You won't believe this. You want to meet people who are running for office and want to tell them what you think. UCAC is the place to meet them. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing how much support they showed.
Doc Holbrook, of course, was there because he's the president. He lives right down the street from me at 83. What is it? 8300 East Jefferson. He's the UCAC president, of course. But the other folks that were there in attendance, whom I had invited to the meeting, included my friend Police Commissioner Willie Burton, WSU Campus Police Chief Anthony Holt, my very good friend, great guy, Attorney Dieta Wilcoxon, who's a candidate for mayor.
Independent candidate for mayor.
Yeah. And Coleman Young the second, who's running for city council, and former council member Sharon McPhail was there. She's a neighbor of mine. I look out my window and she's in the house. Beverly Kendall Walker.
She's running for clerk.
She's running for clerk. That was my student at Butzel Junior High School.
Tremendous person.
Oh man, bright. Beverly was a all A student when I had her. That was shouldn't say how many years ago. She maybe didn't want to know people know how old she is, but she was.
Mary Waters.
Yeah, she was. No, I got them all here. Coleman Young was there. Board President Lamar Lemons, I invited him, but he told me I needed to remind him, and I forgot to remind him, so he didn't come. But former DPS board member Juvette Hawkins Williams was there. She's one of the board that appointed me superintendent of schools back when we had a good board that was doing all the good stuff. Before I could talk about that too another time, maybe how that board lost its power. But Mary Waters was there. Nicole Small was there. Mike Richard was there. V. Starkey was there. Virginia Starkey. James Cole. Gloria Cunningham. Gloria's daughter Kay Render. I mean, Tawana Petty of the Boggs Foundation and Larry Hightower of EMG couldn't make it, but they want to be debriefed on everything that's happening, and we're going to have another meeting. And also, I would have invited Police Chief James Craig because he was on my radio show on WCHB AM 1340. In fact, all those folks one time or another were on
Doug and Vidi, everybody's been on your radio show
Duggan's,
before. And we're going to bring him here.
Yeah, we're going to bring him here too. I don't know if Duggan will come because a lot of times I hit him with some questions he didn't like, but we'll bring Duggan if he'll come.
I haven't seen anybody say no to you yet.
No, they all came.
They all come.
I've got that show now. I don't take callers anymore either. And if anybody wants to call in now, call in maybe the last 5-10 minutes. I generally don't take callers. I do a monologue. They keep calling, trying to call my show anyway, and I have to interrupt myself every now and then to say, please don't call into the show, because this is a monologue now, and I've drawn a lot more listeners. The show tells me since it became a monologue. So I think I'm going to leave it a monologue even after the corona is over.
And that's why you extended onto this community platform.
That is right. And as I was, I keep losing my train, but I would have invited James Craig to that UCAC meeting, the United Communities Action Coalition, the police monitorship and advisory group that we're starting up. But he has he's retired from the police department, and believe it or not, he's thinking about running for governor as a Republican. I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, this guy's a friend of mine, and I got to say he's a friend of mine. But let me tell you right now, he will not be getting my vote. I will be voting for Gretchen Whitmer for governor because, you know, she's been under tremendous pressure, tremendous attack. She's got some of the same problems that Jennifer Granholm had. Dealing with a legislature that is predominantly Republican. And we could talk about what those Republicans are doing too, you know, both in Lansing and in Washington. Good Lord, I mean they're propagating the great lie that Joe Biden did not get elected. Of course he got elected. He got overwhelmingly elected. And I think, do we have a commercial coming up? Oh, we have to look for that.
When the light bomb's on.
Yeah.
But that's what's so elemental about UCAC. It's just like the character of Detroit is very different. Our relationship with our police department is very different. As we remember, Coleman Young integrated our police departments. And so UCAC wants to, and is looking for young members to come in and create this web of safety that we have between community and police. And we'll talk more on that in a second, because I want to remind you that you're welcomed back home. You're listening to WJZZ Cool TV. We're streaming live to you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Please like us, follow us, share us, give your comments to us, and subscribe to this radio station and its programming, one of the few Black-owned platforms for media that we have in the state and in Detroit. If you wish to sponsor or advertise for any of the programs, especially the Dr. John Telford Detroit Show, please contact us by emailing WJZZCoolTVOfficial@gmail.com. And don't think I forgot about you not showing up to the Backyard Boogie last Sunday. Please come out this Sunday. Meet some of the people who are running the shows. Meet some amazing artists. Meet some amazing up-and-coming artists, I should say. Some really, really witty comedians. It's just, it's a free bag of creativity. Adults only, right? It's not an interpretation of that word. Adults only. Don't bring your babies. Bring your heart. And bring your own booze. And definitely bring a chair for you. And maybe an extra chair in case one of your friends show up. But please come down. It's 19730 Ralston, Sunday from 3 to 9 p.m. It's a devastatingly beautiful way to end your summer weekend in Detroit.
And you know, Sunanda, I heard of Twitter, but I never heard of Twitch. What is Twitch?
I got to tell you, I don't know. I just read it off this. I'm 46 years old. I can't keep up with any of this.
Wow.
Yeah, but if you're twitching, I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
I know about twerking, but keep twitching.
Keep twitching, twerking, twittering, and I don't know what else starts with TW, but
we don't twerk here, but we'll let you.
And incidentally, before I forget, you know, please contact me to get an autographed copy of my 6 books, which Sunanda quoted the titles of, you know, earlier in the show. This is my poetry book. This book is called The Lifelong Poetic Prancings of Mad John. The Lifelong Poetic Prancings of Mad John. It's my book sales, you know, that keep me on WCHB and that
That's
keep
right.
me on WJZZ.
Finally, our jazz is back, guys.
I got to remember WJZZ because this is my first program on WJZZ. But I'm going to be with you for the next half a year if I live that long, and I'm probably going to do it longer than that.
I'm not letting you go anywhere.
Nobody's letting me go anywhere. You know,
I'm planning your 101st birthday, John. You can't bail out.
Okay, if you're planning it, then I
101's the number.
I got to stick around.
Before 150.
But I want to give you just a couple of quotes about this book. But there'll be folks quoting about my next poetry book too. My next poetry book is going to be titled Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs. And it's about all the athletes I knew. It's about all the activism that I've done and that my fellow activists have done. And it's about my romances. And I don't pull any punches in that part of the book.
John was a fine-looking man.
Well, the only thing I do is I change some names, you know, because there's still some married ladies, you know, who are still married, and I do not expose the fact that we had a liaison or 2 or 10. Okay, but anyway, here's what M.L. Liebler said about my poetry. Actually, he said it about me. Dr. John Telford is the true poet of the people. He is America's voice for the voiceless. And Professor M.L. Liebler is an acclaimed Detroit poet, author, and he wrote a wonderful book called Wide Awake in Someone Else's Dream.
And he runs an extremely significant platform out of DPS Library for
There's a
poets.
red light that's going on. What does
That's
that mean?
because we only got 5 minutes left.
Oh, we
John.
got 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me tell
Darn
you.
it.
Let me tell you what. Let me tell my listeners what Mildred Williams, the founder and coordinator of DUPAS, Detroit Unity Poets and Authors Society in Detroit, wrote about me and my poetry. And she'll be writing an introduction to my next book of poetry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, this is Mildred Williams.
Oh, darn it. Thank you, Mildred.
But you
Look at what I thought. I'm sorry.
You've also written a blurb, and it's going in
Yeah.
there too. But here's what Mildred wrote. Quote, Poetic Prancings is a masterpiece. She said it is a masterpiece. Telford, the recent superintendent of the Detroit Public Schools, is in tumultuous times, is a teacher poet whose genius and craftsmanship sometimes subtly nudge even the most sophisticated reader to consult a dictionary. I hope I don't do that too much on this show, but I have a tendency to do that. This incredible poetry is in turn hilarious and somber. Some of it is also evocatively erotic. Occasionally it features historical allusions. Sometimes it is frightening, but always it is enlightening. That's the lifelong poetic prancings of Mad John.
I'm so glad you brought up the dictionary word and how they were describing it, because if you look under D for what old men know, because this is an encyclopedia, right? It says under D for different drum, a hypothetical instrument of irregular cadence to which many irregular old men march. I thought that was kind of funny. Is there a drum? Is there a different drum?
I don't march to any drum. That's possibly even my problem.
John is so wickedly funny. This is his first episode, but again, no holds bars. When I read A Life on the Run, because I'm a researcher in education, very few people actually write about their personal lives, and we know personal lives affect how we govern and how we think. And so that book has tremendous historical and research asset to me, and I thank you for that book, A Life on the Run.
Yeah, not just our DNA. It's not just our DNA that models our lives. Our experiences dictate how we act and how we perform. And before I forget, I got to do at least one poem. And I got to take my shot at Trump, because I do it on WCHB and I'm doing it here. I wrote a poem called Uncivil Warfare, and I wrote it on the 6th of January, 2021.
Uncivil, that's hilarious.
Uncivil warfare. On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. I'm probably the only commentator on the air who has called for Trump to go to the gas chamber, but I believe that is where he belongs, because he fomented that insurrection. And as far as I'm concerned, that was an act of treason. And you know what they would have done to Benedict Arnold if they'd have caught him? They would have shot him. And you know what they did to the Rosenbergs? Trump should be in that company. I'm sorry. And if you're against capital punishment, I understand. Let's just put the sucker in jail for the rest of his natural, evil, thieving life. Okay, one more poem. Don't be a dummy who hesitated. Hasten to get yourself vaccinated. We need immunity in our community.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's a great send-off. Please tune in next week. John's going to start having tremendous guests coming through. You know it's an election year, so if you really want to hear what people think, you got an hour to hear them out. So you've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and your co-host, me, Dr. Sananda Corrado, on WJZZ Cool TV on Thursdays from 10 to 11 in the morning, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and Twitch. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. So come on and listen also to Dr. Telford on WCHB AM 1340, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. Tune in again next week, Thursday at 10 a.m. We'll be here to talk some more poetry and politics. God bless you, Detroit.